Well, here we are at the end of September. And if you guys have been reading my newsletters, you'll remember that I was told that there was going to be some galactic action around the 23rd of September. And so we're past the 23rd now. And so I wanted to give you guys an update on what information that I'm receiving about the work that the galactic beings are doing in order to help us at this particular time. And what I was told was there's a new grid that was put in place. And so what I'm going to build on is the understanding of how this grid is being used, what it is, and what's going to happen. So I'm going to ask my guides now to give us a message in what transpired. And so what we want you to understand is that the galactic beings that we've been speaking of have put into place a grid that is surrounding the earth. And what we want you to understand is that the ability for this grid that is currently surrounding the earth to connect to the earthly grid is significant. What we want you to see and understand is that the ability for these two grids to come together is of a magnitude that is much more important than what the human mind can consider. What we want you to understand is that the magnetic resonancy between the earth plane and the etheric plane is of a significant one. We're asking you to all understand that the magnetic pull that the that the grid that is surrounding the earth has been instigated, it has been locked in, and it has now been activated. And we want you to understand that it is serving as a magnet that is working in cohesion with the earthly grid. We wish to call this specific grid that is in the etheric field the atmospheric grid. And this is what we will now refer this to as you move forward in this conversation. What we want you to know is that the atmospheric grid is in the magnetic cohesiveness of the earthly grid. This is causing a magnetic pull that is pulling up the vibration that is existing upon the earth that is no longer needed. What we want you to know is that pulling the negative atmosphere to this particular grid is of the significant value in understanding how the pain and the suffering, the negativity of the 3D will no longer exist upon this earthly plane. And what I'm seeing is that it's basically like you have the earth grids that most of us are familiar with, the ley lines, and the grids that are basically within the Earth's surface. And so what the galactic beings have done is that they've placed another grid that is above the Earth that is in is connecting with the earthly grid. And so now we have these two grids, one that's basically surrounding the earth and one that's within the earth. And the two grids are creating a magnetic field that is essentially pulling all of the negativity, all of that dark energy, all the 3D energy to its surface. So the atmospheric grid is pulling or receiving all of that 3D energy that is causing so much harm and destruction. And so what we want you to understand is that this grid is in place to help shift the human consciousness to a new level of being. We want you to know that this grid was put in place. It was locked in and instigated or activated on that date. What we want you to understand is that this will begin to affect human nature in the days to come. You'll begin to recognize that there is a difference in the way that one another sees each other. There'll be less fighting and less conflict amongst one another. and in a way that will be observable. Meaning, basically, what I'm seeing is that the way that we fight amongst ourselves now, and I understand because I'm questioning about the wars, and what we want, they're saying what we want you to understand is that the wars will begin to start being alleviated in a way that you can't see today, but you'll begin to recognize what's happening and unfolding in the days to come. This may take months and almost a year for it to be alleviated, but recognize that it's coming. And then, so on the personal level, what we're looking at is that there's conflicts within each one of us. And so the internal conflict of beating myself up, I'm not good enough, I'm feeling anxious, other people that are judging me, it makes me feel small. All of these internal conflicts or things that may make me feel different than somebody else. I'm better than you, I'm less than you. All of these stories that we tell ourselves that create this separateness or smallness. These things are coming to the surface within each one of us. And as these negative thoughts and ideas are coming to the surface with each one of us, we're having to deal with them. And so if you start recognizing these patterns that have been going on within you, and they're basically been going on for about the last 6 to 8 months, I think that a lot of you are feeling more and more this pattern of old traumas, old belief systems, old things that are coming up to you that you're having to really look at and figure out if you still feel comfortable with it. So what's happening is that energetic field, this, not only the energy that's coming in, but this grid that's being put in place, it's actually pulling that negativity, dark energy up in each one of us to come to the surface so that we can look at it and really evaluate it and then make the choice and decision if we're going to let it go, if we're going to keep staying in that state. But if we choose to let it go, that magnetic grid is going to help to pull that lower vibrational energy to it faster than what it would have done if the grid wasn't in place. So what this also means is that any conflict that is between two individuals or more groups, things that one group of people look at a situation a certain way, one person looks at a situation a certain way, they may be judging another person by whatever their actions or beliefs are, whatever it may be. What's going to happen is that this high intensity energy that has been in place probably for about 6 years now is what I'm hearing. That energy is subsiding. And it's almost like I'm seeing like an electric shock that has been within each one of us that's made us so volatile. And what I'm seeing is like that electrical impulse that's within us that's causing us to fight, that's wanting to put you against me and I'm right and you're wrong. That had been increased to a point that it has to be broken down now. And again, remember, this is all purposeful. It's to cause a change that's within us so that we can shift away from those old ways of thinking, that old heavy energy, and move into a lighter vibration. And so what's happening is that this grid, this magnetic pull, is really amplifying what has been in conflict in order for us to start looking at what we're really fighting about and why. What is that internal thing that's within me that's pushing me to fight against others? All of this is going to be brought to our attention. And you'll start seeing that the external conflicts that are between other groups, organizations, all of that stuff is going to start subsiding, or the fighters are going to be fewer and fewer. There's not going to be as many individuals fighting against each other as there has been. The system is breaking down. And what we want you to understand is that the system of the old paradigm is being broken into pieces so that it can no longer exist in the way that it has been. What we want you to understand is that the ability to stand in the truth of who you are, which is of the vibrational frequency that we exist within, will help to create harmony. It will create a more cohesive environment for all individuals to live in the unity as one and not separateness. And this is a significant event that is happening at this particular time. So, what we want you to understand is that some things may get worse before they get better. But we want all of you to understand that breaking down the system creates change, and change is never, ever easily accepted. So what we would like for you to all understand is that the ability to look at and within one's self is the beginning of the change. We are asking you all to look within and recognize that the old beliefs are no longer needed and that you can move forward in a place of peace and reliance upon one another instead of against one another. And this is a significant value that is beginning to change, and you are that beginning change. And so they're saying what we want you to understand again is that this starts with one person at a time. And so as we're going through this change and what's been created, it's been over several years, but specifically with the grid that has been activated and illuminated, this is a choice and an opportunity that we as humans have to evolve into a kinder, more gentle way. And so it literally does not matter what your neighbor's doing. The significance of this event is to go within and find that place of love and peace within myself, within me. Once I can gain that shift and that perspective and understanding of who I'm turning into, then I can begin to stand solid in who I am. And that will allow others to pick up on my vibration, that higher frequency that I hold, and it will assist them in their shift and change as well. And they're saying what we want you to understand is how significant this is as you are changing humanity. What we want every one of you to know is that every individual that stands upon the earth has the ability to shift consciousness. It is simply up to the individual that is holding the soul within to become more connected and understand the truth of its existence and not live from the old paradigms or the old way of thinking that has held the human back in a place of despair and sadness. We're choosing to lift you up, to look at your lives differently so that you can become more coherent and one with all. And this is what we want you to understand. So I want to elaborate on what that message has been about this month of September and what we're going through and what we're headed to into the month of October, November, December. It's really a point to be able to take the time to look at yourself, to look within yourself, recognizing the things, the belief systems and the way you've been changing. Maybe your language has started to change. Maybe you start feeling a little bit more uncomfortable around areas that have a lot of dense, heavy energy that may be a real negative vibration. You may find yourself retreating. You may find yourself, moving into a place of solitude that you feel more comfortable being alone instead of being around other people or in groups of people. Understand that this is normal. This is part of the symptoms that we're all feeling as we're moving forward. And the grid is significant in helping us in changing into this different way of living, but it's also going to pull out some of this negativity faster than what we're willing to accept. And that might be a little bit challenging for us and cause a little bit of chaos. So if you find yourself feeling a little bit lost, confused, not sure which way to go, not understanding if you can let something go that maybe, what you feel is a protective barrier, protecting you from getting hurt, all of these old things that we hold on to, it might cause a little bit of chaos. and it might cause a little bit of fear and anxiousness within each one of us. So understand that this is part of the process. It is not a bad thing. This is all a good thing. It's helping us to move forward, to find more peace and wholeness of who we are. So I hope that this is helpful, and I hope it kind of gives you a little bit of understanding of what's happening, and understanding that a new grid has been illuminated and it's here to assist us. And I am personally grateful for the opportunity to gain this understanding so that fear won't arise, and whatever we're experiencing can be understood that we're going to get through it and all's going to be well. We just have to get through it. So this is the month of September. We're looking forward to October.